Now let's talk about the Stewards' Cup then. Big field sprint, and as ever, they spread out all across the track, but there's always one side favoured, so that's what you're all right, mate?
Can't win from the middle, can you?
Well, no, that's a what are you doing? You've got your own side.
No, I hadn't thought about that.
Hello and welcome back to the Flat Pack, brought to you by the Racing Post. My name is Ross Brierley and it's post-glorious Goodwood week. And I believe it was the famous racing analyst Robbie Williams who said that summer's over, autumn's here, there's nothing left for you to fear. Apart from, of course, trying to work out the silks for the Shergar Cup and the Racing League. But while he was looking for angels, we're looking for angles. Looking back at Goodwood and, of course, at the big meetings coming up over the next few days. I am joined once again by the wonderful Mr. Keith Melrose to my right, and thankfully, we're back with Matt Gardner, who had a week off, well, 2 weeks off if you count Goodwood, refreshed and ready to go. You've got all the cycling out of your system.
No.
No?
Never.
Still more cycling to come?
Oh, yeah, always, mate.
Welter next month.
Welter coming up, yeah.
And I mean, to be fair, like I said, Shergar Cup and Racing League coming up this week. If there's one man who likes elaborately coloured jerseys in a sport, it's got to be you.
Yeah, I don't like the colours actually, so yeah, it's weird, isn't it? I suppose.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So you don't actually just like cycling for the men in Lycra?
No.
No, it's the sport itself.
Yeah.
Okay.
Purist.
Not
Purist,
convinced.
yeah.
Not convinced. Keith Melrose.
Hello, Ross.
Matt's back.
He is, yeah. He's still got a week of his boot camp left, I'm told, so there's not going to be any...
There's no beat Keith. There's no beat Keith.
We'll get you... Go on, come on, Matt.
I was practising as well.
Yeah. You might be surprised to hear that it's actually the most labour-intensive part of the preparation for this show. Even after I've dialed down the difficulty of your questions. We're at a transitional period. Goodwood's over, Ascot's over, we're now it rained properly yesterday.
It did, yeah. This is actually the 2 weeks as well, the Goodwood York period, a bit of a trade secret here. This is the 2 weeks that Tom Siegel always takes off.
Ah, okay.
Always takes Goodwood to York off.
And I can understand that because it's definitely, you need to refresh your brain almost for the next phase of the season, I feel. A good Goodwood? For yourselves, personally?
It got better. The straight course was behaving itself by the end of the week, so I had a decent sort of result in the sprints on Saturday. I had the winner of the Stewards Sprint and also had one back from the 6 unlucky horses in the Stewards Cup.
There was only 6?
Man, yeah, okay, buy it 6. But no, I had... I was getting there by the end of the week. I complained about Goodwood a lot. I think it's a hard track to get right.
Yeah.
But starting to get there a little bit. I'm a step forward. I'm closer to Goodwood Nirvana than I was when we last did a show.
Perfect. Well,
that's all we need.
Like I said, you just 12 months, so you can forget it all over again. So you can go back and watch this, of course. It will be here forevermore until the end of time. Possibly. One lesson learned is how we start every show. Plenty of lessons, I'm sure, from Goodwood last week. I'll start off with you, Mr. Melrose. What did you learn? Did you learn that you love Goodwood, or was there something else that you learned?
Not quite that far. Until the end of the week thing, I was ready to say just some catty, nondescript lesson about... I had one lined up about the television debut of Mr. Blobby and the JFK assassination. Do you know that that's closer to the JFK assassination?
Did you have that in the sweepstake?
I didn't see that coming.
No, it's closer to the JFK assassination than today.
What is?
Mr. Blobby's television debut.
Wow. What do you do with your spare time, Keith?
That's my head. One of those things in The Simpsons where it shows the little, the hamster wheel or the cat playing a trumpet or something.
Yeah, yours is Mr. Blobby on a grassy knoll.
Yeah, it was him all along. Yeah. Conspiracy theory's real. But no, I actually, we talked about Goodwood and you talked, it's basically Thirsk on the south coast and all that sort of carry on. It's actually, course form's a massive, massive thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Isn't that dead easy? Isn't it too? But I got... we looked at it back, we'll talk about it in great depth because it is a really interesting point and it came up so often last week.
Yeah. That
you want to be looking at that course form at Goodwood. There's a temptation to overcomplicate it, but when I come next year to lose all my money at Goodwood, the starting point for my study will again be going back to horses aimed at the meeting, horses with that meeting and course form.
Yeah, which I think is something that definitely happens with the jump season. Cheltenham form. It comes to the flat, and I don't know if it's because there are so many other form lines coming into it. It does seem to get underplayed, so I could see that. Mr. Gardner, what about you?
Yeah, watch replays. Goodwood in particular. I think replays for me, I spend most of my time watching replays and watch them several times over, but Goodwood in particular, you could watch a race 4 or 5 times and find something new every time you go and look at it. Whether it's, we'll talk more about it later, but whether it's unlucky horses, pace biases, track biases, trouble in running, all that sort of stuff. You could watch a race and just something that you hadn't seen, you're going to spot again. So just watch them as much as you can with an open eye, in terms of like, you always get focused on the horses that you've backed or whatever, but just try and watch them kind of blind if you can. And it is one of the meetings where it's most key to sort of do that, I think.
Generally, you want to be doing that. You know, if you backed a horse in a race, the first watch, I mean, I do it. I'm watching a horse.
The first watch is you gain nothing from it.
Yeah, exactly.
You gain how your horse that you backed ran. Yeah. And even that is biased.
Second watch is usually just exasperation, isn't it?
Yeah, going, could this have happened differently for me? Yeah. I just need to clear something up though. You did say to watch replays with an open eye and then go back and watch them blind. So I'm a bit confused. Maybe that's why
don't put the blindfold on for that.
Is that why you're watching them 5 times?
Yeah, I think
Yeah. I'm getting nothing from this.
Sometimes the good ones you are watching like that through your fingers, yeah. But
that is true. Yeah. That is true. I think the lesson for me last week was weak Group 1s, or that Group 1 form, even if it's in a weak Group 1, is just a cut above the rest. Because Nashwa in particular, a lot of people lined up to take Nashwa on and said that she didn't beat much, the 3-year form's not very good, so on and so forth. Yet she was odds against in a field of Group 2, Group 3, and even listed horses, and everyone wanted to take her on. Everyone was like, well, this, that, and the other, so on and so forth. And it happened with, Kyprios, Baid, Nashwa were all Group 1 winners coming into it off the back of Group 1 wins in Group 1 races against a lot of horses. Nearly every other horse did not tick that box.
Nashwa is a massive example of playing the man rather than the ball, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because that was a really weak Group 1. And yes, I probably agree that she's not a massively high class Group 1 winning filly, but she was running in a race that was a Group 1, but it wasn't much of a race.
Off the back of PBs as well, weren't they?
Yeah.
It's not like they were coming out of form and then revitalising. Kyprios as well, I say in particular.
Yeah, they hadn't been. It's not like she'd been beaten out of sight in France and then gone, right, is she a Group 1? You weren't trying to work out whether she was a Group 1 filly. She'd already won a Group 1. And there is a bit sometimes where you're like, I'm going to get this horse beat. And then you're like, no, I'm still going to get a beat. And you work your way through it.
I did the Nassau actually, and I got that. I thought, Nashwa, should she really be 4-7 as she was at the time? And I looked down the card, and I got to about horse 5 before I thought, maybe not.
Exactly. So Group 1 form is Group 1 form, even if they are weak Group 1s. A weak Group 1 is still better than a strong Group 3, isn't it?
Oh yeah.
But people forget that. So what were your lessons from the week at Goodwood? I'm sure you learned plenty of them, probably through gritted teeth. Post them down below, and we'll read them out next week. It doesn't have to be Goodwood. Any lessons at all? What have you learned about life? Maybe you're reading self-help books or taking a philosophy course. This is the place to get those lessons out, and we'll read them next week, or not. Who knows? Let's see. Now it's time for reflections then, as we look at ourselves long and hard in the mirror and try and work out what was good and what was bad from glorious Goodwood last week. And we'll start off with by bringing the curtain down on Royal Ascot Watch, which of course has been a staple part of this show since, Royal Ascot. It was difficult to do it before it. And
imagine that. Imagine following the Royal Ascot form before it.
Yeah, it's not working out at all, guys. I'm back to winner. Although admittedly, there was probably a few, if you ignored Maidan, there's probably a few that hadn't run since Royal Ascot and then went on to score. Naval Crown, I think, hadn't run in the UK since Royal Ascot the previous year, so we found another angle. But we keep expecting it to slow down, to stop. But it keeps on throwing up winners. Horses that came off the back of Royal Ascot wins to win last week. Kyprios, Secret State, Baid, Royal Scotsman, Roccagiani, the Foxes, Comanche Falls and Ajero all came off the back of Ascot runs.
I'm calling shenanigans. Comanche Falls?
Yeah.
He's chucked him off in his stalls, man.
Yeah, but he still went to Ascot. He was at Ascot. He was declared a runner.
He had a day out.
Is
that all they need? They just need to visit the track and then...
They just soak up the honour of the place.
It's the mere presence of royalty. That's all it does. Just looking at that stiff finish and going, oh,
I'm going to win at Goodwood now.
Yeah, exactly. Other horses who had already run since but did have Ascot form, Trawlerman, I'm a Gambler, Master Milliner, State Occasion, the Platinum Queen, Sandrine. Actual versus expected last week of 0.99 of horses who've come off straight from Royal Ascot, which again, we're expecting to start to tail off. And I think it will do now, because the key thing, of course, we need to remember about this summer is it hasn't rained. So that form from Royal Ascot is standing up because it's exactly the same conditions they're running in next time out.
Yep, yeah, almost certainly. We had the heat wave just before Goodwood. Goodwood was run on. They said it was overwatered at the start because it was a little bit loose on top, but the times showed the ground was pretty quick at Goodwood all week, wasn't it?
They did a great job, I think.
Yeah, I think they did in time. So we're ready to have a go at Clark's for getting it wrong, but I think he actually got it more or less spot on there.
Yeah.
He made it enough for Trueshan to run, and you know how fussy his connections tend to be, and nobody came away with a hard luck story in terms of the ground. Maybe they just got drowned out because you know what Goodwood's like.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, so we're going to have to put a line on the Royal Ascot watch now. And
we should give it a proper burial, shouldn't we? It's been as big a part of the show as you or I.
Yeah.
Royal Ascot form.
Although if we remove me and you, it's just Matt staring terrifying.
Do you want to see that next week, viewers? Do you want to see
staring into the camera?
Yeah.
Hello, welcome to the Flat Pack. It's me, Matt Gardner, on my own.
How long do you think it would take Matt to stop talking about racing and start talking about cycling if it was just him?
Oh, in solitary, 30 seconds.
Yeah.
That's at the outside as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're going to draw a line on the Royal Ascot watch. It served us very well indeed. And I think we should pick up now from Glorious Goodwood watch and see how that works out. I don't think it's necessarily going to be the same, but we need a control group, don't we?
We do, and Glorious Goodwood has this reputation being somewhere the form doesn't really work out from. So let's see. It's a nice little test case, isn't it, against Royal Ascot?
It is indeed. So other things I mentioned from Goodwood last week, we'll go through things in categories. We'll start off with the juveniles, because of course that 2-year-old form is going to be tested again this weekend at the Curragh potentially. But of course 5, 6, 7 furlongs. We had a race for all those distances. The Molecombe, of course, the Richmond, the Vintage, and mixed messages from that Ascot form. Obviously, the Chesham winner was beaten, albeit probably ran a little bit better than most of the horses out of that race. The Molecombe was won by a horse coming out of a novice, that Windsor Castle form again, being seen with Rocket Rodney, of course. And Royal Scotsman was the one who really franked the Ascot form.
Yeah, that was probably the headline figure. He broke the juvenile track record as well, which in and of itself is sort of interesting, sort of not in the sense of conditions being like really conducive to fast times and all those sorts of things. But
if he broke the juvenile track record on good to soft, we might be getting quite excited.
But I think the key point from him is, one, he's a good juvenile, but he's the third subsequent Group 2 winner to come out of that Coventry after Blackbeard and Persian Force. So
Little Big Bear, what was it?
He was
Group 3 next time?
He was in the Windsor Castle.
Oh yes, of course he was.
Sorry, so Brad Sell, obviously, probably going to see him at the weekend over in Ireland. He's obviously looking very good. There was a really interesting comparison between Trillium and the Platinum Queen. They both ran on the same day over the same trip in very sort of different styles. Platinum Queen, quite one-dimensional, bit of a speed ball just going from the front, and the Trillium's kind of got held up a bit more of a turn of foot. Carrying £2 more, the Platinum Queen ran a slightly faster time despite making her own running. So you kind of think, well, if she'd run against Trillium, she'd probably have given her plenty to think about. And I think they're talking about Nunthorpe with her, I saw this morning as well, which would be really interesting.
Albeit the thing to remember with the Platinum Queen is she was so much better than those horses in there that she was able to get to the front. She was able to set her own fractions. If she comes up against a similarly speedy 2-year-old who can match her pace for pace, would that be a problem?
Be a rapid one that matches her, I think.
Yeah.
I suppose the issue will be she goes too hard in a better race, if you know what I mean. It is a bit tricky beating up lesser horses versus Trillium, who obviously quickened up against better horses. But I do think the Platinum Queen does look rapid, and in speed favouring conditions, she could run a bigger figure as well.
Did we see what she did for the second and third furlong over 5? That they can clock some absolutely outrageous splits because it's downhill. They can break 10 seconds.
Yeah, they can really.
Have you seen furlong?
I haven't actually seen. I think I did look at the time, but I can't remember off the top of my head. But she basically just blasted from the front and sustained it, I thought, which was most impressive. That final furlong, she almost went again, which tells you quite a lot.
Yeah, okay. So she's definitely one to watch. In terms of the Royal Scotsman form, my biggest bet of the week was Alcarar each way. I was huge, really like that Windsor form. Tom Clover's 2-year-olds this year are insane. I think the only one to finish out of the first 3 was the horse who finished 5th in the Windsor Castle. Every single of the 2-year-old he's had has finished 1st, 2nd or 3rd, regardless of the grade, regardless of the race. So that horse was probably inconvenienced by inexperience, I feel, early on. Royal Scotsman got the run through. But I think he'll be really interesting next time out. I'm not entirely sure whether a gym crack would suit, maybe, because he does come from the back. But I thought he was very interesting.
Big chunk of improvement, wasn't it? And I think you're right, he was still a little bit green, and he finished off his race really well. That's the difference, isn't it, between Royal Scotsman, who was having his 4th start or 5th start, whatever he was.
Yeah,
a lot more.
And it also won at the track as well.
Exactly, yeah, just further ahead in his kind of curve of development that you look for in these juveniles. One I still wouldn't give up on is Wallbank, who I know got beat again, but that rail was very much favoured that Trillium came through against. He was a bit isolated down the centre of the track. I still think he's probably got a good race in him, albeit he might not be quite as good as I thought he was post-York.
Yeah, possibly, although the way he runs, I mean, he does want to kind of get on with things, and he couldn't really do that at Goodwood. I wonder whether a middle park or something, just shoot out and keep going at Newmarket might well be interesting.
Yeah, I think he's got the physique to make a 3-year-old actually as well. He looks pretty big and strong, so into next year I'd be sort of persevering with him.
He could take the Go Bears Go mantle potentially.
Yep, potentially, yeah, absolutely.
See, if he's got a bit of size, he might do better. Go Bears Go's plateaued because he's not very big.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of, we're talking about Royal Scotsman winning because of that course form. The other thing to mention was, in terms of handicaps, there was loads of handicaps. That's the thing about Glorious Goodwood is you kind of get a handicap for whatever age you are, whatever trip. It's sort of, would you like 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 furlongs? How many furlongs do you want? There's pretty much a handicap for everyone.
There is, and what you get with Goodwood, and that you get on the flat, whereas a jumps, you get it for Cheltenham and a little bit for Aintree, is you get the horse, Cheltenham last year, don't like Sire du Berley in the old days and stuff.
Yeah.
With those horses, there's one day. But there was only one day for Comanche Falls, really, wasn't there?
Yeah.
As the most famous example. He was basically, we can see now, he was trained for the Stewards.
He just went to Ascot just to check out the stalls.
Just to check out the stalls, just have a little stalls test, which he failed. And he still won the Stewards Cup. So, he was the most obvious example, but we had other horses, lots of handicap winners. I wrote the list, I'm going to have to look at the list, apologies, but Lord Rutherford had won that race.
I mean, it's fine, it's just...
Well, I
you pride yourself on remembering everything.
Well, I try not to have notes there, but Lord Rutherford had won the race last year. Master Milliner, he'd won his only other handicap that he'd run in Goodwood. Orban won the Golden Mile. He'd been 6th in the race last year off a stone higher.
Yeah.
A Day in Asia, his best 2-year-old run had been at the track. The Lamplighter had been 3 from 4 at Goodwood before that run where he was 2nd.
And many a star finished 3rd earlier in the season.
Yes, had run a really good race at Goodwood in that one too. And Lyndon B, you mentioned that all the first 3 had a lot of Goodwood form in that race. Lyndon B had been the same as best run last year, had also been at Goodwood. So a lot of the handicappers are coming back year on year. I think this might be a stronger sentiment now than it maybe was, because these races, we're talking about the struggling with field sizes. The racing maybe isn't quite as competitive as it was. The up-and-comers maybe aren't there that would have been there in previous years. So the repeat form of horses that can evidently act on the track, they can maybe spend a bit of time getting them to the right sort of state of fitness and the right sort of handicap mark for them to run big runs in the handicaps at Goodwood. So it was when Lord Rutherford won on Tuesday, it sort of piqued my interest in it because he hadn't been running at all well this year, but had obviously been trained for the race he won last year. And just from there, it just kept rolling on all week.
Well, and not even the handicap, but Cardham had won the Stewards Cup.
Yes,
he went back there as well. Even Russell had run at the track as well. So pretty much everything had. Yeah, it is such a unique.
Baid had won. I mean, it's Baid, but he'd won the Thoroughbreds. Is it Thoroughbred Straight?
Yeah,
the mile race. He won that last year. So lots and lots and lots of course form.
Yeah. We'll come back to the Group 1s in a second. But the other thing, so with that in mind, I wanted to introduce a new section to the show, potentially. It's called Upgrade, Downgrade. If you like.
Blankety blank.
Yeah, that was blankety blank, wasn't it? Yeah.
I backed this horse, but he got stuck up there blank. Is it the real Ross?
It is indeed. Let's have a look. No, that's Family Fortunes, isn't it? As they said.
Keith Lemon, what did you say? Oh, I didn't know this one, Terry.
Maybe we could get. I mean, he's Leeds based, isn't it? We get Keith Lemon to come and do a show.
Is that just? I thought it was just the accent he put on.
No, he's proper. He's proper
Legit.
Proper Leeds.
Oh right.
Proper Leeds is Lee Francis. Yeah. But upgrade, downgrade, because obviously we were saying about Goodwood, unlucky horses. If the race is run to suit you, and you just happen to get stopped on your run, you're unlucky. But I don't think you're the horse you want to be taking out of this. And this is what happens with post-festival analysis all the time. Yep. It's like, oh, that got stopped in its run. Well,
everybody saw it. Everybody saw that. That's an intrinsic part of the race, is the way horses have their momentum checked.
But if the first 10 are closers, you don't want to be looking at the closer who didn't get the gap. You want to be looking at who is the front runner who stuck around the longest. Mm-hmm. And there was quite a lot of races, I thought, at Goodwood last week where they were fairly simple ways of looking at those races. The biggest one for me was Sandrine in the Lennox.
Yeah.
After about a furlong, you thought David Probert's got the peach of a position here in between 3 or 4 front runners, whereas Kinross and Sacred in particular, she's never been round a bend. She hated every minute of being on that track.
Oh yeah.
I think you can upgrade Sacred and you can downgrade Sandrine.
Absolutely. Even watching the race live, because I was doing it on the RP live, so your analytic is not quite as cold. There's a little bit more. You've got the camera on there, and watching the race through, just thought when they finished, that was Sandrine getting her turn.
Yeah,
those horses look much of a muchness to an extent, and Sandrine just happened to get the best ride and be in the best position on the day.
Yeah, but I think Sacred feels like the one master baton has been passed to her potentially. It's just going to be Foray, Hungerford, Lennox forevermore, isn't it?
Yeah, I can see that. I mean, I agree. I think she's definitely the one to take out of there for sure.
But if you've got a horse like that, she's only run once this season before.
Yeah.
Goodwood, hasn't she? And the one master that was the same. For a 7 furlong horse, your season starts now. You've got the Lennox, you've got the York Stakes, you've got the Hungerford, and then you've got the Foray. So your season starts now if you're a 7 furlong horse. Yeah. So maybe that's has been the plan all along.
In terms of 2-year-old races, I thought the race won by Marban, beating Holloway Boy with Mysterious Night back in 3rd. I thought you could upgrade the 3rd quite considerably and downgrade Marban a bit. If you watch that race back, there's, I think, at least 60% of the field front run in that contest. Mysterious Night races 3 wide, takes it up as they come into the home straight, and then hangs to the inside and gets passed by the obvious eye catchers down the centre of the track. But for me, the clear thing about that was how quick they went early, and Mysterious Night was the one who hung around the longest.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. I'd probably be a little more tempered than you on it. I think he was maybe unfortunate instead of unlucky. If not, he could have finished a bit closer.
Oh no, there's no unlucky. We're removing unlucky. Just upgrade, downgrade.
Oh yeah. As in, like, I think he could have finished a bit closer, but I wouldn't necessarily think that he'd be beating the first 2 even on equal terms. If you know, I thought Marban did quite well actually. Sort of a lack of a bit of experience. And I thought he quickened up really well for an inexperienced horse. But I can see the argument for sure.
Yeah. Okay. In terms of the other races, the one that you mentioned, the Lyndon B handicap, I thought you could downgrade the winner for a couple of reasons. 1, course form, and 2, where the hell was everyone else going? You want to be down the inside. You'd seen it all week. 7 furlongs in a mile. Everyone came down the middle of the track. Lyndon B, Danny Muscat, is going, all right, fair enough, I'll just have the entire inside to myself. Mum's Tipple was the only horse in the sort of the first 5 or 6 who hadn't had course form, was on the speed. And I know it sounds weird to upgrade Mum's Tipple.
Don't do it to yourself.
We've been here before.
Don't do it. Look, mate.
Do you know what Mum's Tipple wins if they go for it?
How many times have I heard this?
Nothing.
But they haven't run the horse back at York in a sprint. No, 6 furlong handicap at York. Come on.
I think that, okay, once more then at York, because that he broke the clock at York, didn't he? He looked like a proper monster at York. And there is one place I'll give you then, it's York.
Well, why have they never been back?
Did he go back over 7, or have I made that up?
Oh, maybe you might be. Maybe
I don't know.
Delved too deeply into it.
I'm not sure.
But he's a sprint for me. Yeah. He's a sprinter who has clear course form.
You put him in your place spot for the lock-in in March last year. Yeah. So
yeah.
I'm afraid you've done that thing, and we've all done it. You're just chasing Mum's Tipple. You're chasing the dragon. You're chasing the Tipple.
I am, and that should be a tipple in itself. You thought you could. What's your upgrade downgrade for the Stewart Sprint?
Yeah, so I was extremely lucky with my best result of the week. I backed that. I put up in the postcast the winner.
You can't remember the name, have you? Many a Star.
Many a Star. And the thing is, half the reason I put the horse up because he was 12 of 12. That rail looked like it had been favoured all week. he still raced a horse and a half off it,
Yeah.
width-wise. And the Lamplighter, who's got a great course record, came down the middle of the track, just failed. I thought he was the one that overcame a lot more in terms of the run of the race than Many a Star. The Stewards Cup, we saw that a few hours later. What was it? 25, 26 and 27 all in the first four. And
The one of that, I thought you could really upgrade Mackinac in that. You had straight down the centre of the track, essentially a 5 furlong horse. About a furlong from home, he's still in front.
Yeah, he's really fast, him, isn't he?
Yeah.
He's interesting. Donny end of the year maybe with him. I think he's got a good record at Donny, doesn't he? So.
Or the Beverly Bullet. Potentially, I think, for Mackinac. And then the other main one for me was the Secret State race, which was clearly very good, I think. Secret State getting one of many incredible rides from William Buick throughout the week. But Solcombe, I thought that was quite I mean, I am really following that horse off a cliff.
That was not immediately coming to mind. I was more focused on the winner, I think, out of there.
The Haggis horse, Yellow Silks, Blue Cross of Lorraine, headgear, Kieran Fallon Road. Well, what do you want? Would Ascot the time before beat Timesius
I'm gonna have to take my own advice and watch the replay again.
Yeah, I think you should. Yeah, but with your eyes
With
open.
my eyes open. Oh, that might be it. Yeah.
And then closed.
Yeah. But the winner.
And then one open, and then the other one.
Yeah. But the winner is an interesting horse for sure as well. I think
Yeah.
that Secret State.
Yeah, he could potentially be a York, Newbury group race, middle distance kind of animal for the rest of the season. But Solcombe came from God knows where, straight out the back. They didn't go a mad gallop, and I think a mile and a half on a stiff track with a good gallop. I think he could be the race that's, like you said, there'll be a York or a Newbury or an Ascot, won't there, in a few weeks. I thought he was interesting. Any upgrades, downgrades for you, MG?
The main one that the 2-year-olds that I took out of it was the Platinum Queen. We've sort of talked about her already. I definitely think she's an interesting horse. And there was a maiden, the 2-year-olds, the Foxes and Classic, and they were 1-2. It was a messy race, and they finished 1-2, but they were a clearer 1-2 than the bare result indicated, if you know what I mean. I think they're both potentially high 90s, 100s, 2-year-olds. So mark them up a bit.
And as for the so-called feature races of the week, we had 3 Group 1s, of course. All went to the obvious horses. Kyprios defending his Ascot crown. Baid winning, as Baid tends to do. And, of course, Nashua winning, as we mentioned earlier, a weak Group 1. The problem with those races is they all went to the obvious horses and everyone was very excited about them. But is there anything new to say or any interesting angles on the Group 1s from last week?
I thought the most interesting thing to ask about the Group 1s was regarding Trushan. They crossed the line in that Goodwood Cup, and somebody said, they've all run their race there. And I thought, well, Trushan can't have because of the level he seems to have put up at Newcastle. So now Trushan's actually become, having put up the biggest handicap performance of the century, potentially, on the flat, he's now a little bit of a thorn in the side of handicappers, I thought, because basically what he's doing now is he's showing that handicap conditions give the possibility to run to figures that he's frankly not capable of in weight for age races.
But I mean, it just makes me think that if I was being chased by a bear...
This has been a surprising theme.
We're going with the bear again.
Has it?
Yeah, tried like a bear, chased by a bear.
That is true, yeah.
So exit pursued by a bear has been like a quiet theme.
We are deeply Shakespearean.
I've heard it said.
Yeah, that's true, absolutely. And if I was being chased by a bear, I would run a lot faster than if I was going for a jog on a Thursday morning. So, but you couldn't see me run being chased by a bear and go, let's get him in the Olympics. That guy's quick. Under those specific conditions, I am going to achieve a performance that you will not be able to replicate under different conditions. That doesn't mean I didn't run that fast.
Unless you're not quite fast enough and get savaged by the bear.
That's why I didn't replicate the conditions. Because I'm seriously injured. I'm bleeding. Please, someone help me. Why are you asking me to run again? I've been savaged by a bear. That's what I would say in those circumstances.
Okay.
Am I getting my point across?
Just about.
Okay. Before we move on to this week's action, we'll just look at a few things that might have gone under the radar from last week, because as I said, this is a time for the form to be switching and changing. The baton is being handed over from those fast ground summer horses to your autumn horses, and we're getting softish ground up and down the country. And we're starting to look for not only soft ground horses, soft ground sires, those horses who've been beaten 6, 7, 8 lengths in handicaps are suddenly a stone lower, are going to start turning up at your Haydocks and your Airs and your Cattricks and your Thursks off Saturday. And they're suddenly going to have a lovely time of it. And of course, all the ways that the races have been unfolding over the summer are going to start switching as well. Those soft ground autumn back-end summer biases that we all forget about are going to start to come to the fore. There's going to be horses coming near side at Catterick. There's going to be horses coming down this near side rail at Epsom as the rain pours down on a Thursday night. And as you saw in beautiful Yorkshire the other day, Keith, they're going to start coming near side at Thirsk as well. But these are the ones we need to get ahead of these biases.
Yeah, I was doing my replays yesterday from the weekend, and I watched the 3:13 at Thirsk, the race won by Intrinsic Bond, and I was looking through the notes thinking I didn't recognise that horse. Oh yeah, because it's not run for a couple of months. And this is the autumn. I'm now looking at the first autumn race, because these horses that do better with a little bit of cut in the ground, they've had their little summer break just to get them back in. And if they were running in the summer, they weren't doing very well because they weren't really featuring in races. And Intrinsic Bond was sort of one of them. He has won on good to firm, but I think his best form's on softer ground. And he's been very busy in early summer, little break. There was a little bit of rain soft on ground, backed him in on that near side rail and in. So yes, the near side element at Thirsk, horses that have had that little break that are coming back for their back end form, because it all started from a conversation we had. Was it last autumn?
Yeah, I think
possibly.
It was, yeah.
You said it was your favourite time of year, and I thought you were an incredible masochist. and you explained it to me, and I thought that does make a little bit of sense. So what I'm going to try and do this year, I'm going to try and treat the two seasons, or the two parts of the season, a little bit differently. So I struggle in the flats. I often do quite badly sort of post-York, and I think it might be part of that reason why I'm still looking at the summer form.
Yeah.
At Goodwood, we could have done a lot better if we'd maybe not paid so much attention to Ascot in the July meeting and actually paid more attention to last year's Goodwood.
Yeah.
This is going to be the same. I'm going to stop paying attention so much to July and August's form in September, October, and start looking at last September and October's form. Because it did work out a little bit when I did the stairs last year to look at it that way. And I'm going to try and do it again. And Thirsk was the first time I thought, right, let's get looking out, because these horses are starting to come back.
That was your first warning sign.
It was a sort of the first little sign of it for the autumn. So yeah, it was a race where one of those sort of under the radar moments that really caught me and thought, right, watch now.
I believe it was Kipling who said, if you can treat the summer and the autumn just the same,
you're going to lose money.
You're going to lose money. But yeah, you've got your Thirsk rail base. Yeah, we're going to start to see, Cold Stare is the one for me. Soon as Cold Stare for David O'Mara starts running in soft ground 7 furlong races and travelling like a dream, I know that autumn is here, baby. And he's entered at Ayr on Thursday, and he finished first and second at the back end of August at Ayr last year. But he's about stone lower than he was last year. There's those Haydock races. Is it Zip? Richard Fahey's runner?
Oh yeah.
All those. You were saying that there was one caught your eye the other day at Chester, was there not, Matt?
Oh yeah, the Lunar Jet. Another one that's soft, heavy ground and just hasn't been getting those conditions and wasn't. Well, he's a bit unlucky. Well, not unlucky, but he was a long way back at Chester. He's a prime horse to have on your tracker for the next couple of months.
And it's not necessarily going to be tomorrow what happens. We're still in August. We're not wishing summer away that quickly. But these horses are now having their preps and they're coming back and going to do well in the autumn. I mean, I'm amazed it's taking this long to think of it, because I've been doing it over jumps for years. Yeah. Thinking about the autumn as a separate entity.
But it's knowing when to draw the line, and also it's potentially, like, for example, I love the Ayr Gold Cup meeting because for the same reason, everyone looks at it. They look at it in one way, and it's the same as Ascot. It's the same as Goodwood. I think it's the 7 furlong 2-year-old maiden at Ayr. Every year, those horses come back the next year in handicaps, and they bolt up. And everyone forgets them.
I think that's one of the things with the flat season is there's a lot of noise in that sense. Whereas in the jump season, you get so used to kind of horses being bottomless ground. They campaign through December, January, February, that sort of thing. Or spring horses are saved for that. The flat season is kind of so long, and it doesn't have those peaks and troughs in the same way.
But it does. You just can't see them.
Yeah, that's why there's so much, like we sort of treat it all as one entity, whereas it's just not, is it? There's so many more.
If only there was some sort of show weekly that we could create where someone could do that work for us, and alert us to that change in those circumstances.
Yeah. I mean, another thing...
Presented by Lee Francis, potentially.
I mean, yeah. I'm not sure he'd do quite the same job as you, Ross. I think you do a better job than Lee Francis.
Yeah. I think he'd make some good bow selections.
I'm sure he wouldn't make any honking jokes like that either.
Yeah, he's not known for his jokes. No, you're right. Maybe I'll present the show wearing a massive plastic chin next week. We'll see how that goes. But welcome to Proper Flatback. So yeah, worth mentioning those. Go back, watch those races, keep an eye on those. And things like the other day, I'm starting to think of the weather already as well. Sutherland the other night on Friday. No one was watching Sutherland on Friday. No one's watching Sutherland on Friday, except I looked and I thought, hang on a minute, every favourite on the round track here is drawn in 1, and they all finished from place. The inside used to be bad on fibre sand. I think everyone thought it would change. Now they changed the surface. It's arguably even worse. It's impossible to win on that inside.
The tip I got from about it was the late Joe Rowntree, who used to always go. He was always at Southall doing the close-ups of the racing post, and he says, "Look," he got me between races. He says, "Look what they're doing," and they showed you the tractor is running low on the track. They spend more time down the middle of the track than on the far rail, and whether it's fibre sand or polytrack or tapeter, if the tractors are still going on the same bit, the effect's still going to be there.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, that is why it exists for a reason, and it's to do with how they plough and treat the track as much as anything else. It's not an intrinsic part of the surface.
Yeah.
Although I can imagine it being more pronounced on fibre sand given the way that was.
Well, yeah,
but it's evidently not in practice.
Well, and also possibly, I think maybe jockeys knew better than to go down there, whereas now they're probably thinking, it's not so bad, and it really is.
In 2 years' time, they'll maybe have learned. But at the moment, it's still being quite new.
But also at Newcastle's the same. Like, you don't want to be down that fast. You don't want to be down that rail at Newcastle at all.
No, and when was the last time a straight course race at Newcastle happened on that far rail? I don't watch all that many, but when was the last time?
I couldn't think of one. No, not recently.
And last thing, I don't know. Maybe is this going to help you in any way, shape, or form? But front runners at Wolverhampton on Friday, every single race. If a horse made all at Wolverhampton on Friday and you're thinking of backing it next time out, don't. Now it's time for 3 races for this week's hot list. Which handicaps over the last few weeks have been throwing up winners? Well, it seems a long time ago now, but the handicap won at Chester by Outgate started to work out quite nicely with last week Ali's Dancer and Point Linus winning out of it. Cowboy Justice ran a really good race at Galway as well. So it looked a good handicap at the time. It's taken a while for those winners to start rattling in left, right and centre, but it's still working out nicely, and there's a few more out of that contest who are entered this week. Thunder Legend goes to Haydock, and Gorax also got a couple of entries for Richard Fahey as well, so keep an eye on that form. Good Earth as well has been one of the sprinters of the summer, and that York handicap where he beat Jordan Electrics has been throwing up winners as well. And whenever a race throws up a winner in the shape of Danzan, that's when you start to sit up and take notice. Danzan, the horse who never gets his head in front, did get his head in front last week, and that's yet another winner out of that sprint handicap. So keep an eye on Equiano Springs, who goes to his favourite Newmarket, and Surprise Picture, who's already won, is going in potentially again later on in the week, and Brazen Bolt and Golden Apollo also have eye-catching entries at tracks that should suit them as well. And finally, last week saw a messy sprint won by the A Day in Asia, who took advantage of quite a few horses getting each other's way to win at a big price at Goodwood. But that Chepstow race that A Day in Asia won before is starting to work out as well. Whistledown won at Epsom last week as well on one of the evening meetings when everyone was probably a bit burned out from Goodwood in the day. So that race is quietly working out quite nicely. Kodaya Sangaria's Silent Flame are entered this week, and the winner, A Day in Asia, could go to Ascot for the Shergar Cup this weekend and try and rattle up the hat trick. So there's a few races for you. Hopefully they'll point you towards punting profits for this week's hot list. With Goodwood behind us, this week is perfect for anyone who likes to dress up in fancy colours and run around the house as fast as they can. Of course, it is the Racing League and the Shergar Cup. We've got some extra cash on Sunday as well in the Sunday Series. So we've been talking about trying to make sense of the flat season. Well, this week, it could well be the silly season for a lot of you. At those meetings, plenty of huffing and puffing and derision and negativity from a sport who normally embraces change. But let's see if we can find anything interesting from this week's action. Of course, Racing League comes back on Thursday at Doncaster, the Shergar Cup at Ascot on Saturday, and I believe it's Musselburgh for the Sunday series on Sunday. We've also got Group 1 action at the Curragh, of course, 2-year-olds getting tested in the Phoenix Stakes. Hopefully we can start to profit a little bit, because the alarm bells go off in my head as soon as people start saying, well, that's a load of rubbish, or anytime it turns to this noise, which happens a lot in racing.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
As a punter, I know that there's money to be made there, and the Racing League, the Shergar Cup, people frothing and foaming at the mouth to say that it's dragging the sport down.
Sounds like Churchill the dog's got a lot to say going by your
yeah.
But it's great that all these three things are in a week, because there's the difference between the Sunday series and the Shergar Cup and the Racing League. The only thing the Sunday series has been praised as a massive success. The only thing it lacks relative to those two is the frippery.
Yeah.
And look, deride the frippery if you want. I would join in a lot of cases, but what links those three races is their inflated prize funds for horses, for connections, owners, trainers that have got the gumption and the wherewithal to go, right, Grant Chewar.
He's only got 2 entries on Sunday, by the way, and he's got the best record in the Sunday series.
Well, he does, because he's targeted it. And trainers that are on it early and target races and are aware of the bigger prize funds, and the owners as well, they're the ones that are going to turn up in these meetings and be interesting. And these groups of horses, they're self-selecting, because you go to these big meetings and you go to have a right go at a big prize. And
that should be the selling point.
Yeah.
Should be like, have a right go at a big prize. The Racing League.
That is, isn't that the motto of the Yorkshire team?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
So they actually end up being competitive races.
Yeah.
Good bits of form. Horses that have been laid out for them. I enjoy that stuff.
Yeah.
I might not enjoy, the sort of costume drama element, but the form element's great.
Yeah. That's Matt, you're a man who likes a costume drama.
My main issue with it is the colours. I don't like the colours.
Yeah.
It's annoying to watch. But once
because you watch all the replays with your eyes closed, mate.
Yeah.
What difference does it make to you?
Well, yeah, exactly, yeah. But once I've shouted at the telly a bit and got that out of my system, I'm all right. Because like you say, they attract good horses, competitive racing, and they are interesting races to go back and analyse afterwards, once you've kind of got all the other stuff out your system a bit.
Yeah,
the problem is
Shergar Cup where you're going, I know that horse, but not in those silks.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a bit irritating, but so what?
And
if I back the
is,
white hat or the black hat or the yellow hat or whatever.
Well, you don't know when you've backed a winner.
Yeah.
You're watching it going, is that mine? Is that, and then it's like you listen to your brain does it, the commentary versus what you're seeing with your eyes. Yeah. See, it doesn't work, does it? No. And I understand that part of the big selling point of racing is that you people do get latched onto horses, owners, and breeders as well. You're having something that you can follow. It's like wearing a replica football shirt or something. If it was acceptable to walk around wearing silks, apart from when playing a
Beat Keith
frivolous game show, I think people probably would do it. If I could go for a run in the Juddmonte silks.
Run a bit faster.
You would get people, yeah.
If I was chased by a bear,
yeah. Put you on.
Chased by a bear plus Juddmonte silks.
Perfect. Well, so here's the thing. That's how they get them fit on the gallops.
Chasing by a bear.
Yeah.
Frankel outran a bear. That famous morning where Frankel outran a bear.
Yeah.
People talk about the train.
Nah,
there was a bear 50 yards.
Yeah, you didn't even see the bear, did you?
Oh, exactly.
Unbelievable. But let's put our cold-hearted punting selves then into this, because the main thing that stood out to me, and it might be difficult on the day to latch on to the theatrics of it. However, the best thing about this is the form works out at all these meetings. The Donny Racing League card last year, if you just backed every single horse out of that blind for the next 6 weeks, you'd have won £12.88. And the thing is, none of the winners went back in again. So there was really competitive races where you can probably get decent prices about horses next time out. And and people are kind of disregarding them. Probably because they're not watching the replays back, or they are watching the replays back and they don't know which ones they're picking out.
Exactly, it's happened to me. It was with Shergar Cup because that's been going longer. I'll go back and oh, that was that one that shaped really well at the Shergar Cup, but it's in its real silks again. It's like they're wearing a cunning disguise.
Yeah.
But it's pathetic.
I'm Guy Incognito. It's Simpsons reference.
Oh, I got it.
That is interesting because it comes back to your thing about all these horses being primed for it, doesn't it? And in terms of their big money on offer, they're absolutely targeted at it. And then in the weeks after, they're still in form.
That's it.
They're still well handicapped.
That racing league, there's 10 horses or 12 horses going to run in that race.
Yeah.
8 have been laid out for it. One of those handicap mark goes up. So there's 7 that are left that are still primed, that are still on marks they think they can win off.
And they then go to tracks, Doncaster, Lingfield, Windsor, Newcastle. They like we were saying with Truchamp, for example, they're rewarding different skill sets. So your front runners you grab the rail and make all at Windsor, and then go to Newcastle. It's not going to happen, is it?
Isn't it? Yeah, very different test.
Absolutely. And you're going to, and you're also dropping back into an everyday 0 to 80.
Yeah.
How much winning does that take relative to a racing league race? It's just, it makes so much sense when it gets written down. I never run the stats before, but it's intuitive and it makes a lot of sense, and it's great to see that it works out, actually.
I think it's probably worth, in terms of the racing league, I think it's definitely worth basically playing the horses who were beaten in decent races next time out. I think that's the angle for that.
It's a long-standing angle, but it's one that you would miss in amongst all the derision.
And the Shergar Cup last year threw up winner after winner after winner. I remember back in, I think it was Bear Force 1, won at Newbury, I think, next time out at 20 to 1. If you'd backed all the Shergar Cup runners blind last year, for the next 6 weeks after the Shergar Cup, you'd be 53 quid in profit. And that was countless winners. A couple of big price ones, I'd say, skewed the stats, but there's a lot of horses coming out of that as well. We're talking, 80, 90, 100 horses coming next time out. So, and they're going to go to Newbury, they're going to go to Donny, they're going to go to Ayr or York or something, and people will go, Shergar Cup form them, isn't it? Tis Marvellous was one last year. They went and won the Beverley Bullet, I think, next time out.
Yeah. And the Shergar Cup's got a lot more history behind it. It's been going 20 years or so, and the other 2 are fairly new. And the Shergar Cup over time has bedded in, and there are certain trainers, jockeys, horses that are going to this meeting every year. You've got a few trainers that do particularly well in it. Andrew Balding's always the classic example, isn't he?
Yeah. Although he does run a lot.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, yeah, that's the thing. You think Andrew Balding, and because I've had to embrace the Shergar Cup quite a lot, I end up doing price-wise for it because Seagull's always on holiday. So you've got to really get into it there with the Shergar Cup. And the main trainers that target it, horses that target it, but also the jockeys is a big element too.
Yeah. And worth mentioning as well there that Tom Seagull is on holiday this week. So if you are going to the seaside, he will nick your chips.
Yes.
If you hear someone descending from the clouds going, I hate sprints, while going for your chips, that's Tom Seagull for you. He's a noisy git.
Been waiting weeks for that, haven't we?
Yeah, love you, Tom. Love you. We really do. We need to get him in. Although, where's he gone on holiday? Let's go. Let's follow him.
No, he's not. He might not have gone anywhere.
Right.
Because don't know. His house might not be empty.
Yeah. Fair enough. Mark Winston has got in touch on Twitter. He says, does team tactics really come into it, or do the jockeys just care about their own ride? My opinion, they couldn't give a toss about the overall prize. So Mark Winston thinks they're just riding to win the race. They're not looking to think, well, I'm a front runner, I'm going to set up Team Yorkshire to come from the back.
Yeah, certainly in the Shergar Cup, I've never seen. I don't think I've ever seen it.
I struggle to believe that a jockey who spends 364 days of the year riding for themselves is all of a sudden going to go, I'm going to, after you type thing. It's not
Go, you know what? Seeing as you're wearing the same top as me.
Think of the points.
Yeah, exactly.
But look at the Europe team, right? The Tories riding in that team. Rennie Pichulek is riding in that team.
Famous, really close friends.
Yeah, exactly. It's the Spanish jockey who I'm afraid I've forgotten his name, but you wouldn't know the Tory if you walked down the street.
Yeah.
Well, he would know the Tory. It's a bad example, but
I think
these guys. The
you wouldn't know the most. I mean, if we don't know, Tory racing really is not marketed itself.
Well, that's true. No, what the sort of point is that they're not teammates.
Yeah.
In any meaningful sense. They're not going to be on Saturday, really. And also the other thing to consider is whether I look at the jockeys and how they ride. Races can be done quite differently because you've got different jockeys involved. particularly jockeys who aren't from Europe. They will often, the races aren't steadily run. French races we know about, they always muck around a bit, and British races and Irish races much the same. Not necessarily the case with Japanese jockeys who'll go off hard. A lot of American jockeys, when they used to come over, they would often go quite hard.
Or Colin Keane.
Or Colin Keane, who's not riding in the Shergar Cup to try and break that Ascot monkey off his back, get that Ascot monkey off his back. But yeah, and a lot of them haven't ridden Ascot either.
Hey, hang on, they have to carry monkeys on their back now.
No wonder
this Shergar Cup thing's gone too far.
No wonder he's never won one.
Yeah, exactly.
Is that it's lead in the saddlecloth any day of the week over a monkey on you?
Yeah, covering his eyes while he tries to watch replays.
Even like Pichulek, who's ridden there. He's only ridden 2 races at Ascot, and neither have been on a straight course. So he's a name you'll know because he's ridden an Arc winner, etc. But he's actually he's never ridden the Ascot straight course, which we all know to be a really unique course.
We've talked a lot about how Ascot is very different to a lot of the tracks in the UK. It's not like it's not a demanding track for them to ride, and all of a sudden they're pitched into, with very little experience on a track like that, because it can be very different to what they've ridden on before. And we just sort of don't really factor that in, but you kind of have to, for sure.
And Pichulek, he rode November and he rode Torquato Tasso on King George Day, as it's only rides at Ascot, so he's never in the straight track.
Yeah. In other things to mention, we talked about trainers and jockeys and so on and so forth. In terms of the Shergar Cup, you mentioned Andrew Balding. Obviously, he throws. Andrew Balding is clearly, because he's at that level where they've got a lot of horses. It's extra prize money. It's Ascot. There's no snobbery there.
It's not helpful to me as somebody who's doing price-wise on the day to look at the Balding horses because there's loads.
Well,
if you're a punter, though, you could just throw arrows, couldn't you?
Yeah, 2003, I think this goes back to. He's had 76 runners in the Shergar Cup, 14 have won, but he's still at £16.50 level stake profit and 1.31 actual versus expected. So even though he's running loads, they're running out of the skin as well. He's got Neandra entered, who bolted up at Lingfield the other day. I thought that one could be very interesting. Proper Ascot finish to that. Other ones on a slight download. And the interesting one for me was Roger Varian.
Yeah, that was an interesting one.
Well, the interesting thing is that he's had 4 winners from 12 runners, but they were all in 2020 when it wasn't the Shergar Cup. So he almost went, we can just book our own jockeys and it's the same meeting? Great.
Yeah, and to be fair, yeah, absolutely.
So, but one that stood out to me, Clive Cox, 5 winners from 19 runners, which is a much more select number of targets, plus £8.50, which suggests that a lot of them are quite well back, but 1.82 actual versus expected for Clive Cox.
So they're going off at prices, these horses, aren't they?
Another thing worth mentioning this weekend as well, shout out to Ed Pownall on Twitter, who's told us there's going to be a big Scoop 6 pot this Saturday, and given that most people won't be looking at it because it's the Shergar Cup, I had a look back at last year. There was 5 races from Ascot and then the Sweet Solera from Newmarket, which arguably is probably the toughest of the lot with unexposed 2-year-olds going for the race. And thanks to George Murray, who sent in a screenshot of the horse She Do, who cost me a 70 grand Scoop 6 by getting up on the line at the back end of last season. Thanks, George. Thanks a lot. But we can rectify that by winning it this weekend, lads.
Yeah, a big bonus fund. So if you've got a fancy for the Great St Wilfrid next weekend, then you're absolutely laughing at that bonus fund.
Well, I don't know if you remember the Great St Wilfrid last year.
I've never had a big handicap where I knew I had the winner after 3 furlongs.
Yeah, the highest drawn 4 horses finish first, second, third, and fourth. So actually, it's the perfect race. You just put the high drawn horse in.
He'll be one of my play spot next week. Just another bottle. I'm not certain he'll win it, but if he gets drawn on that rail again, he's going to run a massive race. But yeah, so there's a big bonus fund on the Scoop 6. So win it this week, and you get yourself running into the Great St Wilfrid. And yeah, so it is an interesting one because they're smaller fields. Usually the Scoop 6 is 15, 20 runner handicaps. You just put perm the lot here and without.
How much have you got in your total account?
I'm not, it'll be millions, but it wouldn't be.
Yeah,
it'd be 7 figures rather than 8, I think, wouldn't it?
Well, you just bank a one in the last, wouldn't you?
I just lay it.
Lay it back. Yeah.
So yeah, that'll be really good. But I'm gonna, if you are doing a Scoop 6 this weekend, Ross, I'd recommend Admiral D in the 6 furlong race as well.
Okay.
I had a look through the sprints in this Shergar Cup card, and that's
that one, and that's the Lethal Nymph. Will be the same race, though, won't it?
It probably will be,
Yeah.
but might end up back in both because Admiral D, he was 4th in the Harry C race at York. He was second in the Lethal Levi race at the July meeting, and he's just been crying out for Ascot. He just gets going at the end in these 6 furlong races. He's another one that's going to suit Ascot really well.
Okay.
And he's got form over further, I think. I think he made his debut for the yard over 7 at York.
Yeah. The other race, of course, potentially in the Scoop 6 is the Sweet Solera, a Group 3 at Newmarket. A couple of interesting entries caught my eye, but we'll get to them in a second because you're the 2-year-old man. You're a 2-year-old Matt. You're a big baby.
Yep. I thought it looked a little thin this year. But you mentioned, was it Novakai, the debutant winner?
There was 2 horses that stood out to me at the entries. One was Novakai, who upset the apple cart, beating an odds-on shot at Doncaster in what I thought was a lot of Shaker Bade horses win 90 first time out, and then they don't necessarily take that second step forward. But the time was very good, the performance was very good. I thought, okay, here we go, we could have a decent one here.
I liked her a lot, and she's basically bred to be a middle distance 3-year-old. She's not bred to be tanking along over shorter trips as a 2-year-old. Like that casts an even better light on her. I didn't think it looked a deep renewal from the entries, and she was sort of the one that stood out a little bit for me, for potential at least.
Yeah, definitely. The other one was Lady Alara, who did a really good time. Another one of those Newbury, I think it was Newbury Maidens. I'll start to question myself now. However, she then went to Sandown and ran behind Dance in the Grass. And that was it was a race where they quickened up midway. The front 2 kicked clear, and she was the only one to make any ground from the back. It was a really big eye catcher, I thought. So they were the 2, I think. And also on maiden figures as well, they're up there because people are going to get swallowed into the group form again. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, I think that's a race where potential is going to beat established form, just because the established level isn't that high. There's that Olivia Meralda, I think, that's probably going to sort of set the standard, and that's not a high standard for them to aim at. So.
No. Majestic Glory won it last year, didn't Andrew Balding coming off the back of a novice win?
Yeah, something. It's a race where something around low hundreds RPR normally wins it, and I think a couple of those are probably capable of sort of taking that leap up to that sort of level.
The next level up, though, of course, is the Phoenix Stakes at the Curragh this weekend, which could be. I mean, if they all run, everything that's entered in that and is priced up sort of sub 16 to 1, Matt, this is going to be. It's going to be an absolute peach. They won't all run, obviously.
No, if they all ran, I'd be having about 12 bets in the race, I think.
Combination tricals and everything.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Because Bradsell's in there, Little Big Bear's in there, Persian Force, Blackbeard, Meditate, and then you've got your Shart Ashes and the other Irish form as well.
It's like a cup final, that's like the 2-year-old final.
Yeah, I mean, I think the 2, probably the best 2-year-olds are Bradsell and Little Big Bear.
Yeah.
And that's on established form, and I think potential as well, because Bradsell we've seen twice, I think it is. Little Big Bear hasn't kind of run in a proper race yet, if you know what I mean, taking on good opposition. So they'd be the 2 standouts in there. Obviously the fillies are interesting, getting that Allowance, Meditate, and Statuette, who's 2 from 2. She's potentially really good. And a little further down the line, ones that are almost under the radar. Aesop's Fable was a debutant winner for Aidan O'Brien, and we've not seen him since the end of April. Whether he's had a bit of a setback or what, I don't know, but he looked really good. And Clear Point for Richard Fahey, another horse who I think missed Ascot through an injury, but then won at Newcastle. Again, looked really good and sort of speedy as well, which is going to really suit him.
I think Aesop's Fable, did he get quite a defensive Coventry quote when he won?
Yeah. I don't think the form was anything out of the ordinary, but he won really easily, and I remember thinking he's like a really big strapping sort that he might have just taken a little bit more time. So definitely those are under the radar.
Worth mentioning as well that if Aesop Fable runs and they go off very fast, don't worry, he'll just keep plugging on at the same pace.
You can finish it. You best finish
it. He'll get there on the line because more of a tortoise than a hare, I feel. But can anyone remember any other Aesop's Fables? That's the only one I could. I'm mixing them up with what's his name? Hans Christian Andersen. Hansel and Gretel. What was that? Who was that?
That would be Anderson, wouldn't it? I mean, Aesop's, this tortoise in the hair is a famous one, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, I think it was worth it, but Well, it's amazing. Sometimes, like you said, you're talking about a horse, you're talking about the form, and my brain's going, just nod like you're listening. Just nod like you're listening. And
I've got a good one here, lads.
Yeah, I've got a good one. I've got a good one. And you're off to France.
No. Unfortunately, I'm not. But, again, byproduct of doing price-wise for the first half of August, because Siegel's not around.
This is the most you've written about anything we've ever talked about all summer.
Well, yeah, you have to get to know Deauville a little bit.
Yeah.
Because you end up doing the Group 1s on the Sunday. So we've got 5 Group 1s over the month coming up at Deauville with a lot of British and Irish interest in them. By the time you see this show, they'll have run the Prix Rothschild, and Saffron Beach is in that, and Tenebrism is in that. So, a lot of heavy British and Irish interest in those races. The races that we will know as punters, like I know the French form a bit, but I wouldn't claim it to be anything below really group level. So in those terms, I'll be looking mostly at the straight course races at Deauville. There's an all-weather track. British punters probably don't know there's an all-weather track at Deauville.
I mean, I believe I've been to Deauville. I went to Deauville and it rained constantly for the whole trip. I saw Nigel Twiston-Davies eating an ice cream.
Twister does not strike you as a Deauville.
That'd have been a long way down the list of things I'd have expected you to see at Deauville.
I think there must have been a sale on, obviously. I assume it's there. Oh, the ice cream was good.
Yeah.
To be fair, he'd gone all the way to Deauville.
I fancy an ice cream. Go to France.
I know, just the place. Get in the car. Right, we'll be there by midnight.
The thing is, Deauville, it's 100 miles south of Portsmouth. What are you expecting, lads? It's.
But the horse I remember winning there was Dansan for Gerard Butler, who was a proper all-weather specialist. So I know there's an all-weather track at Deauville.
Yep, but the races that
it
used to be.
It's not anymore. No.
Yeah, I think it's Polytrack now. But
what's happened to all the Fibersan?
Oh no, where's it gone? But I don't think I've had many bets on the all-weather there, but it's there. But the races you'll end up doing most if you're a British punter looking at these races will be those straight course races. It's dead flat. Actually, they run over a river. There's a part of that straight course is a bridge.
Yeah.
So a few just things to remember about that straight course. That rail, see if they tend to have the stalls on the near side, and if that was a British course, you'd be thinking that rail's the place to be. It rarely is. They often try and go down the centre of the track. This is France, so there will be mucking about, but as you rightly said, on off air, the fact there's so much foreign interest can upset the ecosystem a little bit. You do get the occasional well-run race. I think maybe the Jacques Le Marois last year was a bit well-run.
Is that how you pronounce it? Jacques Le Marois. Sorry, carry on.
Yeah, I this is one where I just get the replays out for those Frenchies because just because a lot of those French kind of small field group races are sort of mess about doesn't mean that all those horses want that. Yeah. And some of the races that have the British and Irish interest, they can be run at a better clip. And you do spot the French horses that you'd think that's going to suit. And they do get overlooked a little bit in the market. So just go watch some races. Yeah.
Yep, absolutely. And you can watch the French replays. If you sign up to France Galop, you can if you get a free account, just sign up and you can watch all the replays of French racing. That was accurate.
It was too accurate. It was too accurate.
You thought you pictured the little pencil moustache.
It was spectacular. It was all you needed was an ice cream and transport right back.
And the ice cream is actually the very last point that's going to come on is ice cream adjacent because it's a proper coastal track. As you'll know, it's literally it's close to the sea as Musselburgh or Yarmouth in this country, really. And I've not done it before, but I will have to do it this year. I'm going to have to dig out the wind stuff. Yeah. Because that can affect it. In the straight course, the wind's sort of maybe at the coast's like at 2 o'clock.
Yeah, they sort of runs slightly towards it, but it's kind of just coming into
they're running towards Land's End is sort of the direction they're running towards. It'll take them a while. Native River might
be a good swimmer.
Yeah, but that's roughly the direction they're running in northwest. So yeah, it's look out for the wind stuff as well. But yeah, a few tips for Deauville. I'll probably be betting in half a dozen to a dozen races there over the next month. Worth having a look at it.
Never mind Royal Ascot watch. It's going to be Deauville watch with Keith Melrose. I'd watch that. That brings to an end the flat back just about. I mean, we've rattled through a lot there in that show, haven't we? What's the one takeaway apart from not chips because Siegel will eat them? What's your one takeaway?
One takeaway from the show is how much this ostensible silly season is actually really good as a punting platform. Racing League I need to do a bit more work on, but I've already got into the Sunday series. That's easy enough to understand as a punter. Shergar Cup I've been doing for years now, so I've got a handle on that. It's on the sly, really good spell for punting.
Yeah. Okay. Matt Gardner, you excited about the 2-year-olds?
I'm excited about that Phoenix Stakes. I thought it sort of had in the back of my mind that it would be a good race, but see it when you listed out the entries, I'm just like, yeah, that could be really good. I really hope that Brad's a Little Big Bear. That's all they pitch up.
They're the two you want to see.
They're the two you want to see go at it. Yeah.
And who's going to win the racing league? Which team? No idea.
Well, it's regions this year at least, so you don't have to say
Yeah.
Team Talksport or Team eToro like last year, do you? That was a bit embarrassing, but this year at least it's regional. You boys will be supporting Yorkshire, won't you?
Of course. Of course.
And I'll be putting all my faith in Linda Perrott in Team Scotland.
And not for the first time. But the only Linda Perrott horse I can think of is Retirement Beckons, which is probably a pointer. But thanks for watching the Flat Pack. We'll be back next week to... and we'll watch those replays for you. We'll watch the Shergar Cup. We'll watch the Racing League replays so you don't have to. And if that doesn't save you some time and effort, I don't know what will.